A whole channel dedicated to the book of Romans. What was I thinking? I'll tell you today on Romans Redux, where I'll give you 5 reasons why. I'll explain what Romans Redux means and why I chose that name, and also 5 things you can expect to see through the course of the next weeks and months on this channel. Let's go back to the script. Number 1 reason is Romans is arguably the most important book or letter ever written in the Western world or in the world writ large. It's important to the church, whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Eastern Orthodox, anything in between. It's also had an impact on the secular world, on world governments, on politics, on, you name it, a string of issues, many of them very highly charged issues. Romans gets involved and is in the middle of it. The second reason to start a channel all about Romans is tied to the first, its importance worldwide. But it is the center of Christian theology. Here's what Martin Luther had to say specifically about the book of Romans. This epistle is really the chief part of the New Testament and is truly the purest gospel. It is worthy not only that every Christian should know it word for word, by heart, but also that he should occupy himself with it every day as the daily bread of the soul. We can never read it or ponder it too much, for the more we deal with it, the more precious it becomes and the better it tastes. Number 3, Romans is the master key. Not just a key, but the master key of the New Testament. Really of the whole Bible, but within the New Testament texts, the Gospels, the rest of the Pauline epistles, the other epistles of Peter and James, they all can be, their interpretation can be guided by how we read Romans, and vice versa. We can look at Romans and understand Romans better by how we understand the rest of the New Testament. But Romans is really that linchpin that has so many of the different threads that can then go back out and inform the rest of the New Testament. And again, into the Old Testament. I didn't have it here on the list, but Romans is so chock full of Old Testament quotes and citations and allusions that if you understand those, you gain a better understanding of the Old Testament itself just by virtue of having to dig into it to understand Romans better. Number 4, really this list of 5 is why now, but also why me? Why Dennis Lutero and a channel dedicated to Romans? Well, I've spent a decade of my life researching and studying in depth the book of Romans. That includes attending seminary and earning a master's degree in biblical studies, where my entire focus was Romans, even to the detriment of some of my grades and the consternation of my Old Testament professors. I found ways to make my Old Testament classes about Romans. Number 5 reason why start a channel about Romans now and why me? For me, part of my research, the kind of natural outgrowth, if you will, of that in-depth study was memorizing the entire book. That then led to performing the book as a stage play. At first it started as just a recitation for a group of folks at church, but that quickly developed into this full-blown stage performance with costumes, with props, music, multiple players in the play, and that process. And I'm not an actor, professional or otherwise. I'm not even an amateur actor. But in the studying of Romans and the memorizing of the book, this was the next logical step, was to be able to actually deliver it the way it was delivered in the first century, which was to a group of people. And then from that, to be able to test our interpretations against that embodied performance. And that's been very fruitful for me and for my studies and for my understanding of Romans, which I hope to share with you. All right, let's take a little intermission and talk about the name Romans Redux. Why did I choose Romans Redux? You've probably heard the term Redux, usually in association with films, talking about a reboot or a sequel to a film. The idea that something's coming back again. It can also be used, and the way I am using it is as a returning back to an original state and a recovery of that original state. Excuse me. The idea then is that Paul, in the first century, when he delivered this message, was delivering it to a specific group of people at a specific time in a specific context. And we've lost a lot of that in the last 2,000 years. The letter has been treated like a theological textbook. It's been treated as a universal code of propositional truths. And in doing that, we've lost that original message that Paul was trying to deliver. And I hope to be able to help you all see that and see where how you can read the letter and experience a letter from beginning to end as a letter rather than a chopped up list of proof texts. So why Romans Redux? Simply put, the primary goal for this channel, for Romans Redux, is to help people experience Paul's letter to the Romans as his original hearers would, and appreciating the nuances and complexities of the letter's first century context. That's really the gist of it. Everything else flows out of that, and I'm hoping a whole lot more comes from our discussions here and from being able to share the insights that I've garnered from the process of study and performance of the letter. Next time on Romans Redux, why after 2,000 years we're still arguing about Romans. The theology in Romans is very complex, but it's made more complex by the fact that we conflate these two and we conflate these two. When in Paul's original first century audience, they understand all four of these terms individually with different meanings and nuances.